We're following breaking news on CBS Sports HQ. The Washington Redskins have fired head coach Jay Gruden. Team off to an 0-5 start after its loss at home to the Patriots, and multiple reports say the team will make O-line coach and assistant head coach Bill Callahan their interim guy moving forward. Callahan, of course, has NFL experience, a former Raiders head coach, and then also in the college ranks at Nebraska. And with that, good morning, everybody. Tommy Tran in our CBS Sports HQ studios here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And if you're waking up this morning, you know now that the Washington Redskins no longer offering an olive branch to Jay Gruden. Here's a statement there from the team saying through the first 5 games of the 2019 season, the team has clearly not performed up to expectations. Moving forward, we are committed to doing all that we can collectively as an organization to turn things around and give our Redskins fans and alumni a team they can be proud of in 2019 and beyond. All right, for more on Jay Gruden no longer being the head coach in Washington, let's welcome in NFL insider Jason Locke Canfora. And JLC, as many people are waking up this morning, not necessarily a surprise, but now we have some definitive, clear, concise movement here. What are your thoughts? What more can you tell us here?
Well, I mean, look, the Redskins are a dysfunctional franchise. I'm not going on a limb by saying that. They have been dysfunctional for most of Dan Snyder's ownership tenure. The football operations are in the hands of Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen doesn't have an evaluation background. Bruce Allen isn't what you'd necessarily call a football man. He's more of a businessman. Yet there is not a single decision of any magnitude that's made on the football side that isn't signed off by Bruce Allen, or in many cases just simply executed by Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder. And that is the nature of this organization's fatal problem. And it's the reason why under this regime, and by regime I mean Bruce Allen's tenure, where I think he's about 35 games under 500, doesn't really matter who the coach is or who the coordinators are. Doesn't matter how many talented young coaches you might have on the staff. There was a time when Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor were all in that building. They don't win football games on anything close to a consistent basis because they don't put together the types of rosters, and they don't have the type of organizational cohesion that leads to success in this league. Jay Gruden knew coming into the season he probably wasn't going to make it through the season. I'm told Jay Gruden would have been okay had the Redskins just relieved him of his duties in the spring when they were having philosophical differences about how this team was being built. This is a coach who did not know that the owner and the team president were trading for Alex Smith. This is a guy who didn't know that they were then giving Alex Smith a massive contract extension when they didn't have to. That essentially secured the quarterback position for the head coach without the head coach having a voice in that decision. It's been bad there for a long time. I reported 2 weeks ago there were numerous people on that staff who basically saw their firing as inevitable given what was going on in the building and given how bad the relationship had become between Jay Gruden and Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder. I expect them to try to make a flashy splash move of some type. That's what Dan Snyder does. He goes from hiring a low-key guy to hiring, a Joe Gibbs type. It was Spurrier didn't work. Let me go to Joe Gibbs, a proven NFL head coach. When that ended, he was stuck with Jim Zorn when other people didn't want the job. Jim Zorn was not a person anybody else was interviewing for head coaching candidates. He comes off of that debacle. Let me go get Mike Shanahan, a guy who's done it before. He takes a chance on Jay Gruden as a first-time head coach. He lasts 6 years, which by Redskins standards is an eternity. But now he's left with a broken covenant with his fans, nobody in the stands, nobody clamoring even to go to games, to pay attention to his football team. I live basically in the region that the Redskins are marketing to, and they're a disaster. So I expect Dan and Bruce to make a business decision and try to get some sort of head coach they believe will get fans to buy back in, will have the type of pedigree that will help them sell seats, because the product on the field will not sell seats.
All right, and they're going to make that announcement there 1 p.m. in a press conference. We hope to learn more there. One more before I let you go, JLC, and it has to do with Jay Gruden. You sort of alluded to the situation there. So what are the chances Jay Gruden will get a head coaching job sometime in the future?
I'd be surprised. I don't know that that's necessarily where his head is right now. Coaching in that building is not easy. Ask anybody who's been there. It's sort of a daily struggle. You feel like you're being undermined at times. You don't have the kind of say over your roster unless you are the team president and head coach the way a Mike Shanahan was or the way a Joe Gibbs was. It's very difficult to get much accomplished. I think Jay Gruden, while you never like to be fired, by some point this week will feel a little bit relieved that he's out of that cauldron. He's owed another $6 million roughly for next season. If you know people who know him well, his makeup, sort of his persona, what makes him tick, I think he'll be fine as a coordinator moving forward. Maybe a head coach down the road, but let somebody else deal with the media every day. Let somebody else handle that. I've been reporting there's a very good chance he'll end up in Las Vegas next season running the Oakland Raiders offense for his brother, John. That is something that's kind of just sitting there in his back pocket. Maybe other things materialize, but I think that's where he wants to be, and I think that's where he will end up.
All right, that's our Jason Locke with some insight on possibly what's next for Jay Gruden, the latest from the Redskins, who again have fired Jay Gruden after 5+ seasons. JLC, thank you. When we come back here on CBS Sports HQ, we continue to follow breaking news. The Redskins fire coach Jay Gruden. What's next? We'll talk about it here on the program. If you're just waking up with us here on CBS Sports HQ, we're following breaking news. Washington Redskins have fired head coach Jay Gruden. Team is off to an 0-5 start after its loss at home to the Patriots. Multiple reports saying the team will make O-line coach and assistant head man Bill Callahan the interim guy. He does have NFL experience with the Raiders, also in the college ranks with Nebraska. And for Jay Gruden, in his 5+ seasons in D.C., a 35-49-1 record with just one playoff appearance, as this year the Redskins' first 0-5 start since 2001. For more on this breaking news, let's welcome in senior writer Pete Prisco. And Pete, what do you make of the firing here? Not necessarily a surprise, but yet here we are.
Look, there's been friction inside that building for a while now. It goes back a long way, but it goes back to the draft specifically. The ownership, the general manager, they wanted Dwayne Haskins. Jay Gruden and the coaching staff did not. Well, they drafted Dwayne Haskins, and now he's been sitting. And so the owner's not happy with that. That's why the move was made. I mean, 0-5, it's easy to make that move when the coach is in an agreement with you. So I think this is a precursor to we're going to start seeing more of Dwayne Haskins under center.
You think we're going to see more Dwayne Haskins under center? The winless Redskins will be at the winless Dolphins this week. What do you think the approach should be? Because there are some that say that you should make sure you're okay with Dwayne Haskins, make sure he gets a guy that you'll be okay with. But you are here saying this morning that they should play the rookie.
Well, I'm always a big believer in playing the rookie sooner rather than later. Now, clearly, Jay Gruden thought his job might be on the line, and it was, so he wanted to play the guy that gave him the best opportunity to win. Well, that's all cast aside now. Bill Callahan's not going to be the long-term coach, so now he does what the ownership wants, and what the ownership wants is to play Dwayne Haskins. And if you're going to play Dwayne Haskins, this is the week to do it. Miami isn't a good football team. Throw him in there, let him play, see what you have, let him grow, spend the rest of the season getting Dwayne Haskins ready for the future. This team is not going to win, get in the playoffs. They're not going to win the division, so find out what you have in Dwayne Haskins.
Pete, they get a head start in looking for a permanent head coach. What type of coach do you think that should be? One to pair with Dwayne Haskins, we presume.
Yeah, an offensive-minded coach would make a lot of sense, but also somebody's going to have to work with Dan Snyder, and that takes a special coach. And I know there's only one, it's only one of 32 jobs, and so it's special. I get it. But when you go into that situation, you got to be prepared for everything it comes with being a head coach of the Washington Redskins. But if it were me and I were Dan Snyder, I'd look for a young, bright offensive mind. And again, that's been the trend. Look around the league. All the young offensive minds are the guys getting hired. So I think that's going to follow suit here. He needs to get an offensive wizard to work with Dwayne Haskins.
And Pete, one more before I let you go. What type of challenge would that be when you have a Bruce Allen and a Dan Snyder over the past 20 years has not had any success, and this is a fan base that has been longing for some of that Super Bowl success that they had 30-plus years ago?
Well, and it's also a fan base that is eroding in terms of ticket buying. And if you look around that stadium, it used to be packed. It used to be one of the toughest tickets to get. It's not that way anymore. And that's a little bit of a reflection of what that organization has been. And it's a reflection of what Dan Snyder's done with the organization. They need to turn things around. So he's got to hire the right guy. And also that guy has to be willing to come in there. And Snyder at some point has to step back and say, you know what? My coach, you want to do it this way, do it this way. And maybe he needs to get rid of Bruce Allen. I mean, there's also a lot of people around the league you talk to and you say, hey, how come he keeps Bruce Allen all the time? So maybe they need a total overhaul, because the guy that comes in has to be a guy who has power and not just a yes man for Bruce Allen.
And we'll hear from the front office again, a press conference scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern. That is our Pete Prisco breaking it down. Pete, certainly appreciate it waking up with us and joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. And as we take a look at the numbers, the Redskins under Jay Gruden, the win percentage under 500. And then he was brought in, he's an offensive guy, right? Has obviously some experience there with the Bengals there as an offensive coordinator, even some Arena Football League type stuff, just hasn't been able to get it going. And now his time in D.C., 5+ seasons, is over.